a route schedule, how we could print out the various forms of the schedule, set up billing for reoccurring services, as well as take a little bit of or quick look at MapPoint and how you could map your route, optimize the route, and some of the features and integration we do with MapPoint. If at any time you have any questions during this, please feel free to stop me. We'll try to keep this as interactive as possible, and I'll try to make it as general as I can to try to fit everyone in their different industries. Is everyone able to hear me all right?
A little soft, but yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Let's see if I can turn up the headset. All right, the first thing we're going to do is go to our route schedule. Now, before we can start adding stops to the schedule, we do need to set up a few things, such as our frequency and our route technicians. So the first thing to set up our frequencies, we're actually going to click in this first box, or double click rather, with a little arrow next to it. This is going to open our route frequency maintenance window. This allows us to create the different service intervals for stops on the schedule. So I can simply create a weekly frequency, which would reoccur once every 7 days. Now the first label here, the first field where I put weekly, is simply a label. What really controls when a stop would reoccur is either the length of days, the interval settings, or the months that are selected here. So I could create maybe a biweekly, should be once every 14. You could do a monthly, every 30 to 31. You could even do like a 28-day month every 4 weeks. That way, if you set up on a stop, let's say if you did every 28, you set up a customer on a monthly schedule for, let's say, Friday. If you did it every 28 days, it would always fall on a Friday every 4 weeks. It would never roll over to a Saturday or Sunday. Now you have 3 options when setting up frequencies. You can either use the length of days, as in the first 3, or you could use interval settings, which is kind of the middle options here, where you have the interval frequency and interval day, or you can use the monthly selection, which are the months checked off over here on the far right.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
How do you set up if you service 3 times a week, 2 times a week, or daily?
If they're on the schedule, or if they're 3 times a week, like say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they would be 3 individual weekly services. So you would have them weekly for Monday, weekly for Wednesday, weekly for Friday.
So you'd have to set those up in the frequencies?
No, you could simply use just this one frequency weekly, and there would be 3 stops, or 3, this customer would be on the schedule 3 times, weekly for Monday, so their Monday would reoccur every 7 days. Same for Friday. Your everyday service, you could either do the same thing, weekly for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or you could have it reoccur every 1 day. So when you're finished with that one service, it'll bump to Tuesday and then move to Wednesday.
So you put a daily in the frequency there?
Yep. Now the only downside of the daily is if you don't do service on Saturday or Sunday, when that stop gets to Saturday or Sunday, you're going to have to roll it to Monday. So it just depends on the number of daily accounts you have. If you have a good bit, it may be better off just to set them up as weekly for all 5 days of the work week.
Yeah, I could see that would probably be better to set up the other way.
Now, you do have an option of using interval settings or monthly selection. Now, those are monthly type frequencies only. So we could, I'll just call it monthly 1 for now. I'm going to leave my length of days blank. I'm going to check off use interval settings. I could have a stop reoccur on the second Thursday of every month. That's how that would work.
That's great.
I could even maybe create a bi-monthly or every other month. I could have it use monthly selection, and I could just check off every other month. Those are just a couple examples of the frequencies. The last one we'll do, you could have, let's say, a one-time or a call-in type frequency. My length of days I'm going to set to 0 because I don't want it to reoccur. And I'm going to tell it to delete after posting the route, meaning once you've marked the week as complete and you're moving into the next week, any of the one-time services are going to be removed from the schedule.
So you could set up quarterly in here too.
Now you can have an unlimited number of frequencies with different length of days. There's no limit here. Now, after we've set up our frequencies, the next thing we would do is set up our route technicians or routes. You can use this one or two ways, or really a couple different ways, whichever makes sense. You basically need to create a label for each route you have, whether that's defined by a technician or a truck. We're going to do the same thing, just double-click in here. And you're going to see the first field is technician. This is basically the route label, what we want to refer to this route as. This could be Route 1, so I'm simply just going to use R1 for Route 1. Then I could put in the technician's name. I could have a truck number. Or I could have something maybe just Route A. Or you could put in technician Bob. So you can really do this a couple different ways depending on what makes the most sense for you. I do recommend the first way, Route 1, or some type of label, and then putting the technician name in the second field. There's a couple different reasons for that. One, if you ever have to reassign or you get a different driver or someone else now does that first route, the only thing you would have to do is come into this page and change the technician name field. If you had a bunch of stops assigned to Bob, like the last example, on the schedule itself, you'd have to go in everywhere it said Bob, hit the drop-down, and change it from one to another. This makes it just a little easier to manage. Now we have a couple different ways of tracking basically labor or sales tied to this technician. You can use a class in QuickBooks, a labor item, or a sales rep. If we use a class, any work or any invoicing, revenue generated from this route when it goes to QuickBooks would have that QuickBooks class tied to it, so you could filter any of your revenue reports or sales reports in QuickBooks by that particular class, which would represent a technician. Same with the labor item and same with the sales rep. You can create a department. This helps in some of the reporting down the road. We won't look at it too much today, but to create departments, you can simply double-click in the department field, and you can see I've got a couple created here. And I do have a routing department. So this may, if you've worked with the tasks so far and you've added users to the regular user list, you can see there's also a department field there. So I could separate maybe routing and service or accounting and service from regular users from my route techs. So I may put all of my route techs in the routing department. If you want to track a little bit more information, for each one of these technicians or users, you can just, again, double-click where it says Route 1 or whatever your label is. And you notice it's blue and underlined. So you double-click. You're going to get a pop-up window. Allows you to store a little bit more information, maybe like a truck payment, repairs, insurance uniform, fuel rate. You can track maybe an hourly rate. So now that we've got our frequencies set up and our technicians, we're ready to start adding stops to the schedule. This is going to act very much like a spreadsheet. One row is going to represent one stop on the schedule. So I'm going to go ahead and add a weekly stop. We'll add it to Route 1. In the route date, I'm going to pick today, so we're setting up Route 1 schedule for Monday. When I pick the date, it'll pre-fill the day, the assigned to, and the assigned date for me. It'll take me right to the stop column. So this may be a stop number 1 for Monday, the 9th. Then I can pick a customer. So just what we've entered so far, we've created a reoccurring weekly stop for the customer, Michelle, and it's going to happen every week on Monday. The route date is going to represent the next scheduled service. So once this service is complete today, that's going to advance 7 days and show me that customer's next service. Your assigned to and assigned date by default are the same as your route and route date. Your assigned to and assigned date actually act or are there for route reassignments. So for whatever reason during the week, if Route 1 can't do this stop, I can always switch it and temporarily assign it to Truck 4 or Route 2. Notice the route will always stay Route 1. This is who you want it to fall on every week. So when this week is complete, the assigned to is going to default back to Route 1. This just allows me to reassign it to the other route so it would show up on the schedule or mobile device. Same with the assigned date. If I have to, for whatever reason we miss this stop on Monday and we have to do it on Tuesday this week, I can just change the assigned date. It'll still advance every 7 days from the route date, and it will fall on next Monday. So once we've added one stop to the schedule, we could continue working here. I could add a biweekly for Route 1, pick today as well. So we're going to add a second stop to his schedule. So now I've got a couple stops set up for Monday. Let's say that is all the stops Route 1 has. Now if I'm going to set up my second technician or my second route, again, I'm just going to continue going on the new line here. Pick my frequency. I could then pick my second technician or my second route. I could then pick today's date again, and now we're setting up Route 2 or your next route schedule. So we're going to start our stop numbering over again. So this will be stop number 1 for Route A for Monday. Pick a customer. Once you've got all the stops set up for Monday, for instance, you can then just go to the new line and start adding stops for Tuesday. Real easy. Now, you do have a field called Route Notes. These are account notes that the techs can see in the field that do stay on the schedule from week to week. So any of those service notes that the guys need to see, the keys under the mat, we do this, this, and this for this customer, beware of dog, anything like that you can put in the route notes. They never change unless you change them. And you can enter a lot of information here. If we double-click in the route notes field, you'll get a large pop-up where you can then enter in all your notes for that stop. And then just hit close to save. You have a suspended column. This allows me to freeze one of the stops on the schedule. It would not show up on the printouts. It wouldn't show up on the mobile devices. So it's a great way if a customer doesn't pay, you could suspend it on the schedule. You have a missed reason. If you double-click in the missed reason, you'll get a pop-up window where you could set up a couple quick codes. So maybe you missed it due to weather, rescheduled. This way, whenever you miss a stop, you can put in the appropriate reason, and that would be stored in the history. So if you went back and looked at the 9th, why didn't we do this service, you could see, for whatever reason, why it was missed. You also have a stop good through date. This date works in conjunction with the suspended column. So if I put today's date in here, as soon as that service is done, it's automatically going to suspend that stop. So it's basically a stop service date. So if you have a certain service that you do through October, you could have those customers with the stop good through date set for 10/1, and then whenever the schedule goes past that date, it'll suspend any customers with that stop good through date filled in. Another important field here is the route time and travel time. This is a great way to kind of budget and see how much work is on the schedule for any particular day or driver. And this is in minutes, so I could put maybe 30 minutes with 15 minutes of travel time. And if you look at the bottom of those two columns all the way down, it's going to total up. And this works if you're filtering or sorting on this page. So for instance, if I want to see maybe the amount of work on Route A, I would then see the total amount of time. So 0.7 hours. So I could quickly filter to Route 1, and I could pick by day. I could say Monday, and he's got just about 3 hours worth of work, including travel time. So you could maybe handle a few more stops. Anytime you filter or sort this page using one of these drop-downs, and you want to get back the default view, just hit reset. And then on the very far right, you have a way to track the number of services. And this is based off the number of route tickets created for a customer, which we'll discuss in a moment. And basically just a route ticket real quick is a service slip or a work order for these reoccurring services that the guys either fill out on their mobile device or you could create in the office if you're using kind of hard copies, pen and paper. This is a great way of tracking customers who prepay for any service. So they could have a start date, and then you can budget the amount of services. So let's say they prepaid for 24 services. It'll tell you the quantity that you've done and how many are remaining. For lawn companies, this is specifically for you to track the number of cuts. So far, does everything make sense on this page? Any questions? Good. So now if we wanted to print a schedule, I can go to Route Info from the top toolbar, and then go to Print Route Sheets. And then could select a route. So let's say I want to see Route 1 schedule for today, or I could pick a week state range here. Then the version of route sheet. These are all the different templates that we have, or layouts of that route sheet, or what that schedule is going to look like. The standard is the simplest, just a list of stops. Have the customer, their address, their service frequency, and any of the notes. Now my favorite is version 3. It just is a clean out. You can get a lot of stops per page. So the square underneath every customer is going to show those route notes. This also shows the subdivision or gate code, which is located inside of customer detail on the additional info tab. Right there, the gardens and the gate code. You can go through these different versions and find one you like. We do have a lot of extra information that'll print out, like with equipment, with rentals. You could even do stop labels. So you can see over here on the right, it's saying it's optimized for Avery 5160 labels. I'll let you print out like address labels or little stop labels that'll customer name, the route, the stop number, service on, and the date. I could hit email customers at the top of the route schedule, and it's going to bring up a form. It allows you to pick a route, so I could email everybody on Route 1 for, let's say, today's date, a simple message. You can notify them ahead of time that you'll be on their location or at their property to perform a service, or you could notify maybe someone or a whole route even that their driver's out sick and that their service will be made up, the following week. Now, these routes are separate from tasks. This is the kind of biggest confusion we get when a lot of people are starting our software. You will not see any scheduled stops from the route schedule on the schedule view or the task list. So there is a clear separation between tasks and routes. Tasks you want to treat more or less as one-time services, call-in work, reminders, and then routes is anything reoccurring. Now, that being said, we do have a way you could generate a task for every stop on the schedule, basically creating a work order for every stop. That is the button on the route schedule that says Generate Stops to Tasks. If I were to click that, it's going to ask me to pick a route. So I could say Route 1, and then pick a date. I could say Monday. I can hit Create. Now if I hit the home button to go to my task list, you're going to see now I have a task automatically created from each stop on the schedule. This would then allow me to see these stops on the schedule view if you like that calendar layout. Now at the end of every week or at the end of every day, we have to, I got a quick question here. Correct. You are correct, Mark. If a customer is suspended and you try to email customers from the route schedule, and a suspended customer does not receive an email. Now what I was saying is you do have to perform something either at the end of every day or the end of every week, and we need to post the route. And that's done at the bottom of the route schedule. And that simply means you're advancing your schedule. You're moving it forward. It's not automatic, so you do either, like I said, have to do it at the end of every day or the end of every week, whatever's easiest for you. So let's say it's this coming Friday. I could simply put in a date range. So let's say it's Friday the 13th. Before I leave the office, I'm going to put in the date range of the week we just completed. And I would tell the software to post route. Nothing goes to QuickBooks. No billing is generated. The only thing that happens is this schedule moves forward. It asks me, do I want to reset suspended stops prior to 12/13? If I hit yes, anything that is suspended is going to be unsuspended. So it'll put it back into the schedule. I recommend hitting no here. That way you can manually manage what's suspended and what's on service. And everything advanced by its individual frequency. My weekly stop jumped 1 week. Both are showing up for next Monday. My biweekly skipped next Monday and went to the following. My monthly stop advanced 28 days. And my one-time service was removed from the schedule. It's no longer visible. Now, every time you post the route or roll the schedule forward, you generate history. So if I want to look up any of this schedule history, I could go to Route Info, Schedule History. So here you're going to find the history of the route just like it was before you posted the schedule. So you could see anything that was in there. For instance, you would see the missed reason. You could pick and choose any date range here with these top boxes. So you could say, show me everything for the week of the 9th. You could just see that week's history, or pick just one customer. Now, the other way we have to track pretty much if a service was completed is through what we call a route ticket. Now, a route ticket can be filled out either from pen and paper. You could pre-print these forms or work orders, and then enter them back into the software. You can also fill them out on our mobile devices, and that would synchronize right into our route ticket list. So here is going to be a long list of tickets. You should have one for each service. You can track a couple different things with a route ticket, the arrival time, departure time, which then calculates the time on site, track comments. If we drill into a route ticket by double-clicking the order number, you can see here I'll have a spot for line items so I can track billing along with this service. I also have additional info where you have 30 fields that you can customize to track any other information. Now this is the way the ticket looks if you're using, if you're on print, you're not using the mobile devices. If you are using our mobile devices, you have 60 customizable fields that you set the labels for, basically designing what that worksheet looks like in the field that the guy fills out on his phone. If you're interested in the mobile devices, come to the mobile device class. We do 2 a week, Tuesday, I believe it's Tuesday afternoon and Friday morning. So not only do these route tickets just track that a service was completed and give you a spot to enter notes or comments about a service, they actually can be used in a number of different ways to generate billing that goes into QuickBooks. We cover these in detail in the billing class, which I believe I think it's Thursday morning. I could be mistaken. It could be Tuesday morning. Let me double check. Okay, the billing class is Thursday morning at 10 a.m. We'll go through in depth how to set up billing for the route tickets, but what you can do is, since you're getting 1 ticket per service, you have an easy way to generate basically a per service billing, where you could have in a given month maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different route tickets for 1 customer. Our software can combine each individual ticket into 1 invoice that goes to QuickBooks. So a customer may get 1 QuickBooks invoice with 8 line items on there, each one for, let's say, a $25 service charge, dated with the date of service. These route tickets can also be emailed by hitting the email button. This would send a service verification to the customer, letting the customer know that such and such technician was on their property at whatever time, and give them any notes or comments from the route ticket as well. If you're not using mobile devices, you have the option to auto-generate route tickets, meaning you can pre-create the route tickets before the service. That way you could print them out, and that they're automatically created on that route ticket list, so after the guys turn in their paperwork, you have a spot to come back in and fill out the information. So I could create route tickets for everything on the schedule for the 16th. I can go right down to generate tickets. If I hit view tickets, that just takes me back to my route ticket list, where you can see I've now got 2 tickets for the 16th, and they're ready to be filled out. Now on this Generate Tickets page, I have an option here of a couple different versions to print basically that work order or that route ticket, so I can hand it to my guys and have them fill it out in the field. The default version looks pretty much just like an invoice. You have a 2-part version that's meant to be printed on perforated paper. So you could leave a customer copy and have an office copy. And you can customize the 2-part and 3-part version just by double-clicking. So you can put in anything in header. Any one of these text boxes controls what prints out on that route ticket. That's some static fields for him to fill out. So here's a good example. Time in, temperature, wind speed. areas treated, a little service memo, thank you for choosing our company. This one actually looks nice when you print it. You also could do a Word template. So this would allow you to design your own document using Microsoft Word with your logo on top. You can have a color scheme. You really kind of can control what you want it to look like. When you go to print route tickets, it would then prompt you to pick a specific format here. There we go. So it opens it up in Microsoft Word. Here's an example one that I think should come with the software, but let's see if it pre-fills the customer information. We do have examples on how to make these Word templates by going to miscellaneous info, go to our View Online Help. You then can go to the How-To drop-down here and hit Word templates. This will give you some instruction on how to create the Word templates, as well as you have a couple sample templates to download: route ticket, pest control, rental, quote. This will give you a little bit of explanation on how we use what are called bookmarks in Word to pull the information over. So refer to this when creating your templates. Now, if I want to map my stops, I can use Microsoft MapPoint. We actually integrate with it, so you can send the data to MapPoint, see everything visually on a map, optimize it to get the best order. And to do this, I'm just simply going to kind of put everything onto one route, so we have a couple stops here to look at. Now, it's important to note, if I click the Route Notes field here, you can see it shows me my service address. You will need a complete shipping address or service address with city, state, zip for it to map correctly. The easiest way to map is just simply right on my route schedule. I can pick the Assign To, Route 1. Then I could pick an assigned date. So right now it's going to map everything on the schedule for Route 1 for the 16th, and I can hit Map. And it's going to open up Microsoft MapPoint, start plotting the stops. And here you can see it all mapped out. Now I can hit the car icon in MapPoint, which is the route planner, and it'll show me the different stops. If I wanted to make this a true route, I could right-click on my first stop, which is always going to be the company address. I could add as end. So now it's starting and stopping at the same location. You're going to see over here in the directions, the route has changed. Click this line to get directions. So it just refreshes that map. Now you can see, I think it tells me it's about 29.3 miles, just under an hour of driving. In the lower left, I could hit Optimize Stops. This is going to reorder the stops and see if I can get a better order. So I think it cut it down by about 3 minutes. So I could take this proposed order from MapPoint and reorder my stops in the stop column accordingly. So it's saying my first stop should be Mary. Make that stop 1. Second one should be Kathy here. Third, Michelle, and then John. So now I have an optimized order. Now once you have your routes optimized, we have a real nice feature of finding a way to get a new customer onto the route schedule, and pretty much our software can tell you exactly where to put them based on distance. So if I go to route info, I can go to map distance for a new route stop. So here I could pick a customer that's not on the route schedule. And then I'm going to hit get distance. So this is a brand new customer. MapPoint is going to search behind the scenes and tell me, you see here it returns the distance, that I should do this stop either before or after Mary, because I'm only 2.6 miles away. So I could simply say, okay, we'll do her right after. We're going to hit after. And it automatically inserts them onto the route schedule. Now that is now the stop number 2. I don't have to remap this or reoptimize it. MapPoint has already told me when I hit get distance that this is the best spot for it on this already optimized route. You have a lot of other ways you could use this. As far as if maybe this customer had to be done on a Tuesday, you could filter by the day, so you could see all the stops that were closest on Tuesday and then hit before or after to find the right one. Now, if you want to do some advanced mapping of not just one route one day at a time, you could go to Route Info and then Route Mapping. This lets me pick a route, a zone, a zip code, a specific day of the week, or frequency, any combination of those options. And then I pick a starting date and an ending date, and it's going to map it for me. So I could literally map everything on the schedule that is weekly onto one MapPoint map. I can even feed into MapPoint the cost of gallon for fuel if I know a particular truck or a rate that one of the guys is driving. And that would feed into some of the data in MapPoint that you can get the actual calculation of how much it's going to cost gas-wise to run that route. Do have just over 10 minutes left in the class. I did kind of get through everything I want, the basic setup of the route schedule, talking about route tickets, and then demonstrating MapPoint. Does anyone have any questions? I'd like to open it up the last couple minutes here, just general Q&A on anything we've gone over today.
Michael,
yes.
Could you look at 2 different routes and ask it to optimize them? To see if they should be blended, you know what I'm saying, in that respect?
It doesn't get that, it doesn't really give you that detail. The only thing you could do is map them side by side or together, and then optimize it, and then you could basically split the route in half.
Okay.
Just right down the middle, and then you would know you're kind of in the right order in the right area. It doesn't give you that comparison. It would be nice though.
But if you go to that map, what was that? And then when it
Route mapping.
requested route, you could put both routes in or one route? Or how would you get there?
I could simply go to route info, route mapping.
Okay. Yeah, can you go select, can you
I
put
can't
two routes
select
there?
I can't select multiple routes, but I could map everything, on the schedule for a week today, and that would map all my stops together regardless of what route they're on.
Okay.
If you're not utilizing zone, that's another way to do it, is you could put customers in routes 1 and 2 into one zone, and then you can just map that zone as one route.
Okay.
Now, one of the features, MapPoint itself is a very, very detailed program on its own. You may look at, I have a lot of customers who use the territories. You could manually create your territories here. I recommend by zip code. And it'll walk you through it, but you basically could have a territory called Route 1. And then I could highlight a specific area by right-clicking. I can hit Add to Territory, and that's now going to be Route 1, purple. Then I could add a new territory. I'm going to call this Route 2. So then when you mapped your routes on top of this, you could see if a particular stop, let's say that Route 1 is mapped right now, well, it's mainly in Route 2's territory.
So could you optimize that by, say, like doing an entire city as one route, and then let it figure out, obviously, the most efficient way to service them all, and then divide them up?
Yeah, when you go into route mapping, you can't do it by city, but you can do it by zip code.
But you can only do one zip code.
You could map everything in one zip code together as one route, optimize it, and that could become Route 1.
Okay. But if you did it under mapping, could you do it as a territory, multiple zip codes?
You can do multiple zip codes per territory in MapPoint, correct. Our software, you could not split it up. The only way to do that would be to use zones. If I go to my customer list and double-click in the zone field, let's say I want Zone 1 to be Vero Beach, or I could have Vero, we'll just put VV for Vero Beach, but that includes 32963, 32967, and 32966. That could be Zone 1. Now all I would have to do is put each one of those 3 zip codes. I just got to find 3 customers with those zip codes. So this first customer is in 32963, put it in Zone 1. And then it'll say, do you want to put all customers in 32963 into Zone 1? Hit yes. Then if I find my next one, 32967, well, that one also goes into Zone 1. So I'm going to add 32967 to Zone 1. And then I want 32966 is also in Zone 1. So now this Zone 1 has all those 3 zip codes, which is all the city of Vero Beach. Now when I do my route mapping, I could map just Zone 1, which is 3 different zip codes, and then I could set the MapPoint territories to be those same 3 different zip codes.
Okay.
Any other questions? The last thing I will leave you with is a cool feature of MapPoint. It may not apply to everyone, but it is a great sales tool. Depending on the type of business you're in, if you're looking for kind of a way to get some lead generation, or basically you can hit this little categories button or find nearby places, and you can hit categories and you can check off different types of businesses. I then at the bottom can say search around the entire route within maybe 5 miles and hit refresh. And now it creates a list of maybe potential businesses that are right along that route that you're not currently servicing. So it found 462 places that are not on the route, potential clients along that existing route. So it could be very helpful. You can look at any one of these, just double click, it'll pull up their address and a phone number. Go ahead, Pam.
I was wondering initially, how do we use the route scheduler to initially put in our routes that are existing, and we don't have to create a task as if they're being delivered, right?
Correct. No, your route schedule, you do have to put in the routes the way they currently are set up. Then you could use MapPoint to optimize them or rearrange them, and then I don't recommend having to create tasks. You could simply use route tickets to
manage. So go to
manage.
billing from there then, huh?
Correct.
We haven't done the billing class yet, so I'm assuming.
That'll be the next step. That'll kind of tie together how you now charge for the routes you have set up. But it's going to take you some time just to get your existing routes keyed in there. It's boring. It's some data entry, but
routes in.
That would be step one, is get the routes in before you try to do anything with billing. Once that schedule's set up, you'll see it in the billing class how you can quickly and easily go from the schedule then to the different ways you can charge for that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
No problem. I appreciate everyone coming to the class today, and I look forward to seeing you the rest of the week.
Hey, Michael, before you leave, could you show me how you did that one more time to find all these businesses?
Yeah. In MapPoint, there's an icon at the top. Depending on what version you're in, it should kind of look the same, but it says Find Nearby Places.
Okay.
And then once I've pulled up that menu, I click Categories, and then I can pick and choose what types of businesses I want it to search for. Then at the bottom, I put in, 5, 10, 15, X, whatever number miles around, and I then pick the entire route. So I've done this once I've already mapped my route. So it just searches along that, sort by distance, and then I hit refresh, and then it will show you all the different businesses in the different categories, and just expand the category.
Okay.
All right, everyone have a great afternoon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.